Akaza's gaze was filled with displeasure, as the Biwa demon continued to play her instrument. He was soon stronger, which piques Tanjiro's interest. The next day, Tanjiro searches the forest for Hataru and contemplates the secret weapon Mitsuri mentioned. Suddenly, he spots two figures in the distance, one of whom is revealed to be Muichiro Takedo, the Mist Hashira. And the other one is a little kid with a mask on his face. Not only this, he also sees another figure with red hair, and realizes that he already assessed this figure in his dream.
Behind the trees in the forest, Tanjiro worriedly watches a young child yell at the Mist Hashira, proclaiming that he wouldn't hand over his key and won't tell him how to use it. Thinking that it's rude to eavesdrop, Muichiro suddenly strikes and grips the boy, much to Tanjiro's horror as he races over to help the young boy and tries to free him from Muichiro's grip. Tanjiro asks the Hashira to let the boy go, but Muichiro hesitates. Despite having a smaller and thinner body than Tanjiro, Muichiro does not budge and asks for Tanjiro to release his hold. He then quickly punches him in the stomach, causing him to drop to the floor. He then starts calling him weak, saying that Demon Slayer Corps have gotten weak as they allowed the weakling like him to join it. The Hashira senses a demon presence in Tanjiro's box, and when he decides to check it, Tanjiro slaps his hand away, telling him to not ever touch it. He then frees the boy from his grip and starts asking about whether he's okay or not. The boy then told Muichiro that he will never hand over the key to him even if he tried to torture him. Muichiro tells him that torture training is something even grown-ups can't take it. Since he's a child, he won't last. He insults the boy, stating that a Hashira's time is worth far more than the time spent by the other people, and since swordsmiths can't fight, they can't save lives. They are only good at making swords since they don't know anything else, and asks the boy again to hand over the key. Tanjiro, annoyed at his words, slaps his hand again and tells him that he was too cruel to the child. When asked about this, Tanjiro tells him that his words are true, but being a swordsmith is also an important vital job. Further explaining that swordsmiths have amazing skills that are different than theirs, and if they don't make swords for the Demon Slayer Corps, then the Corps couldn't do anything. He also says that swordmen and swordsmiths need each other since they are battling the same battle. Annoyed at his speech, Muichiro cuts him off and hits him in the neck, knocking him out cold. While unconscious, Tanjiro notices Haganazuka's presence, who was asking the young boy to look after him, but the latter runs off as soon as Tanjiro begins to regain consciousness. After picking himself up, Tanjiro excitedly inquires whether Haganazuka was just there or not, but the boy nervously denies it. The boy also reveals that he gave the key to Muichiro, in which Tanjiro apologizes for intervening as it wasn't his place to. The boy then thanked the Demon Slayer for standing up to the Hashira in order to defend a complete stranger. The two converse, and the boy informs Tanjiro about the key's use, which is to operate a deteriorating mechanical doll that had been built by his ancestors and was used for swordsmen to train. In the middle of their conversation, the two suddenly hear loud sounds. The boy leads Tanjiro over to where Muichiro is intensely training with the battle doll, telling him that the name of the mechanical doll is Yorichi Type 0. While watching Muichiro train against the mechanical doll, Tanjiro looks at the doll's face and ponders the idea that he has seen it before. He asks the young boy why the doll had 6 arms, to which he is told that as it was modeled after a real swordsman, and the doll's 6 arms were necessary to imitate his movements. Tanjiro tries to push for more information, but the boy apologizes and states he didn't know much else, besides that it originated in the Sengoku period. Surprised, Tanjiro notes how that must mean Yorichi Type 0 is over 300 years old, and even so, it still hadn't been destroyed. The boy replies that his ancestors were able to construct the doll at a level that couldn't be accomplished again at the present time. Despite being the heir of the great swordsmith, he even can't endure its durability, and wouldn't be able to fix it himself, especially without the aid of his late father, stating that he doesn't possess the knowledge or skills to do so. Hearing this, Tanjiro understands the reasoning behind his resolve to not hand over the key to someone that could potentially break the doll. The two observe Muichiro for a while longer, and Tanjiro admires the Hashira's uncanny degree of skill, despite being of similar age. Muichiro's Kasugai crows chips in and loudly praises her master's abilities, referring to him as a descendant of the sun-breathing users and a genius completely different from Tanjiro. Amazed at his bloodline heritage, Tanjiro curiously inquires why Muichiro wasn't able to use the sun-breathing, but gets received an angry assault from the crow to his cheek. While he is being attacked by her, Tanjiro suddenly remembers the dream he had and how the swordsman he saw had a face that matched that of the doll's. Hearing his words, the crow stops and grumpily questions the logic behind his words, given how the swordsman was from so long ago. The young boy pitches in, proposing that perhaps it was a memory that was passed on, revealing that he's been told on his village that people don't just inherit physical forms from their ancestors, but also their memories too, suggesting that it may be similar to what Tanjiro was experiencing. The crow thinks of this idea as nonsense but is cut off as Tanjiro introduces himself to the boy, and the boy introduces himself as Kotetsu. Suddenly, the group hears a sound and witness Michiro destroying parts of the doll, with pieces of its armor flying away. Devastated at the sight, Kotetsu runs away to the forest, and Tanjiro followed him. He asks Kotetsu to show himself up or otherwise he will find him since he's got a great sense of smell. Tanjiro then finds Kotetsu hiding in a tree, crying over the broken doll. Tanjiro attempts to motivate him by saying he'll eventually be able to improve and fix it, in which Kotetsu replies that he is too pathetic to do so. Tanjiro climbs up the tree and flicks Kotetsu as a method of snapping him back into reality, exclaiming how he had to make the effort and develop the skills so that even if he wasn't able to fix Yoruichi Type 0, the generations after him would. Tanjiro compares his struggle with Kotetsu's, affirming that even if he dies before he is able to accomplish his goals, including killing Muzan and turn his demon sister back to human, someone else will eventually be able to do so in his place so long as the framework is set. Cheered up, Kotetsu and Tanjiro conclude to determinedly work hard together. While they chat during a walk through the forest, they encounter Michiro again, who expresses that the training was helpful. However, his sword broke, so he will be taking one of the doll's swords. He tosses the broken sword indifferently to Tanjiro, asking him to discard it. Although confused by the swordsman's attitude, Tanjiro notes he lacked a malicious aura and likely wasn't acting rudely on purpose. A storm brews overhead as Tanjiro rushes to Kotetsu, who appears aloof while staring at the broken doll in the rain. Tanjiro suggests they check if it can still move, which is met by approval from the boy. As they pick it up, it remains stagnant for a few moments before suddenly shifting into a stance, much to Tanjiro's excitement. Kotetsu then fiercely orders him to train with the doll and becomes stronger than Michiro with his aid, causes Tanjiro to be in sudden shock. As he tries to step away from the training, Kotetsu proposes a variety of insults Tanjiro could use once he becomes stronger than Michiro, but Tanjiro refuses the thought and decided to train with the doll and become stronger. He begins to train with Yoruichi Type 0, with Kotetsu's analytical skills and newfound motivation being used to excessively critique the Demon Slayer's movements. He declares that until Tanjiro can accomplish what he wants, he won't receive food. Kotetsu shows Tanjiro another method of adjusting the doll's movements through twisting its fingers, such that it'd coordinate with its user's weaknesses, and compares the actions to that of playing with a wooden puzzle box. After readjusting the doll, Tanjiro continues brutally training with it without food, water, or sleep under Kotetsu's direction, because the latter does not understand the limits of a human. Just as Tanjiro approaches the brink of death, analogous to nearly crossing the Sanzu River, he becomes capable of smelling the incoming movement of the doll and lands a hit on it, earning him his first meal. After gaining this ability to predict movements, Tanjiro continues to train it and improves his stamina and foresight. In the middle of a spar with the doll, Tanjiro's newly improved abilities grant him an opening to behead it. However, he hesitates mid-swing and worries about breaking the doll. Kotetsu yells at him to strike, reassuring him that he would be able to fix it. Internally, the young boy begs Tanjiro to not waver so that one day, he will become stronger than anyone else. With Kotetsu's approval obtained, Tanjiro succeeds in landing a blow to the doll's neck and breaks his training sword in the process. He apologizes to Kotetsu for the ruined sword and, after Kotetsu's sudden exclamation, Tanjiro turns to see a sword's hilt emerging from the doll's body where its head used to be. A sword's hilt appearing out of the broken Yoruichi Type 0 startles Tanjiro, Kamadu, and Kotetsu, who shout in shock. Their surprise quickly shifts to fascination and excitement as the pair attempts to deduce the age of the blade. Kotetsu urges Tanjiro to take the sword, but Tanjiro is adamant on the fact that he could not and that the doll breaking to make it appear wasn't completely his doing. Kotetsu insists that as the owner of the doll, he has the final say and that Tanjiro should take it, especially considering how he needed a new blade anyways. Caving in, Tanjiro pulls out the blade as Kotetsu watches excitedly in anticipation, but they are crestfallen after seeing the blade had rusted with its age. Kotetsu tries to apologize to a tearful Tanjiro for getting his hopes up, but they are suddenly interrupted by a muscular Hotaru Haganazuka emerging from the woods. Hotaru mentions that he heard their conversation and tries to take the sword from Tanjiro and Kotetsu, who resist. They try to get Hotaru to explain his motive, but the swordsmith continues to try to take the sword and finally forces it out of their hands. Kozo Kanamori appears behind Hotaru and tickles his sides, making him fall limp. Kozo greets Tanjiro and Kotetsu and goes on to explain Hotaru's situation. He states that Hotaru had been remotely training in order to improve his forging skills so he could make a strong sword for Tanjiro, in which the demon slayer happily admires Hotaru's thoughtfulness. Kozo continues on, saying how Tanjiro's repeated requests for swords from Hotaru made him happy, as he lost many of his clients with his personality. Amidst their continuous chatter, Hotaru suddenly regains consciousness and confidently declares that he will fix the rusted blade. Kotetsu fusses over how he could have just easily explained before they fought over the sword, which results in an angered Hotaru lifting Kotetsu by the neck. The next day, Tanjiro talks about Hotaru's progress on the sword with Genya Shinazugawa, who, angered by Tanjiro's presence and attempts at friendliness, tries to get him to leave. When he starts yelling, Tanjiro notices that the tooth he had pulled out a few days ago had reappeared. He questions him on this and shows the tooth he had picked up as proof, disgusting Genya and resulting in him being kicked out of the room. Saddened, Tanjiro ponders his fellow demon slayer's consistent anger. Later that night, a swordsmith strolls through the village after a bath and encounters a pot on the ground. Curious, he reaches for it but is suddenly engulfed by the pot, killing him. Gyako, the upper rank 5, emerges and comments on the poor quality of the swordsmith as a meal. Elsewhere, upper rank 4 Hantengu cowers on a roof and states they must quickly accomplish their mission. An asleep Tanjiro Kamadu is woken by Michiro Takito pinching his nose. The Mist Hashira questions Tanjiro if he knew Kozo Kanamori's whereabouts, as he was his new swordsmith. Tanjiro mentions that he was likely with Hotaru Haganazuka and offers to help find them. Michiro asks why Tanjiro would willingly accompany him when he had other things to be doing, and Tanjiro replies he believes helping others would positively benefit him. At Tanjiro's words, Michiro feels a strong sense of familiarity and questions him on what he had just said. The demon slayer tries to reply, but is hit by an awakened Nezuko, breaking Michiro's perception. Seeing Nezuko, Michiro comments on her uniqueness and wonders where he'd seen her before while Tanjiro worries about Shichamaru, Tamayo's feline assistant, appearing before them. The trio keep thinking about their respective worries, and Tanjiro and Michiro sense a presence behind the doors. When they glance over, Hantengu crawls into the room without radiating his presence as a demon. Tanjiro and Michiro both realize Hantengu is in upper rank and prepare to attack, with Michiro immediately using mist breathing, 4th form, shifting flow slash. Hantengu swiftly dodges to the ceiling and cries, begging the demon slayers not to hurt him. Tanjiro tells himself not to hesitate, and uses Hotaru's newly forged blade to attack Hantengu with Hanakami Kagura, sunflower thrust. Hantengu dodges again, but receives a blow from Nezuko in her awakened form. Tanjiro tells Nezuko not to transform and meanwhile, Michiro successfully beheads Hantengu. Tanjiro remembers that beheading an upper rank does not necessarily result in its death based on his prior fight with Daki and Jotaro, and yells at Michiro to keep his focus. Right as he does so, the severed head and body transforms into 2 new demons, one of which holds a leaf-shaped fan. Michiro attacks the demon with the fan, while Tanjiro takes on the other. As Michiro rushes to attack, the demon waves his fan at him and intensely blasts Michiro out of the building. Tanjiro and Nezuko manage to hold on to the rubble and come face to face with the 2 demons. Karaku, the demon with the fan, asks his partner Sekido if he was having fun. Sekido responds negatively, and uses his staff to emit bolts of lightning-like attacks, which slowly make Tanjiro lose consciousness. Before he does, he sees Genya Shinazugawa on the rooftop pointing a gun at Sekido. Genya Shinazugawa shoots both Sekido and Karaku with his Nichiren gun, blasting off Sekito's head and nearly decapitating Karaku. Karaku expresses enjoyment towards the fight as Genya rushes in to slash off his head with a Nichiren sword. Tanjiro yells at Genya that his attacks were futile and the demons were willingly being beheaded so they could keep splitting and increase their attack power. As the battle continues, Tanjiro desperately analyzes his opponents and tries to pinpoint their weaknesses, but his thoughts are interrupted by a third, bird-like demon, Hirogi, who lifts him up into the air with his foot. Realizing that each demon has a unique ability, Tanjiro instructs Nezuko to assist Genya, but horrified, he realizes that his teammate had been impaled by a fourth demon, Izetsu. Hirogi taunts him for worrying about others and not himself, proceeding to generate a sonic scream. Tanjiro attempts to counter with a Nakami Kagura and successfully cuts off Hirogi's leg, but he is unable to dodge his scream and is violently struck with the attack as he falls. Tanjiro plummets through the trees and lands hard on the ground. He pleads himself to get up and protect the village, but his injuries render him incapable of easily moving. Izetsu lands near him and holds his leg down as he directs another shriek, and Tanjiro silently watches in alarm. Elsewhere, Michiro dashes through the forest as he makes his way back to the village. He spots Kotetsu trying to hold off a minion fish demon and internally decides that he is not of priority to save, considering the boy's lack of refined swordsmanship skills and the importance of the village chief. However, as he hears Kotetsu's cries as the demon grabs him, Michiro remembers Tanjiro's words of how helping others would positively benefit himself. He slashes the fish demon's arm, releasing Kotetsu, and stands guard over the boy while requesting for him to run so he wouldn't be in the way. After decapitating the fish demon, Takito was taken aback as its head grew back instantly. It was then that he noticed a vase on the demon's back, and after slicing through it, he finally succeeded in killing the demon. His suspicion that it was a blood demon art was confirmed. Looking up to his savior, Kotetsu clung onto Takito tightly, expressing his gratitude for saving his life and apologizing for his past insults, which the demon's slayer Hashira didn't even recall. As Kotetsu's animosity towards him faded away, Takito tried to leave, but he was stopped in his tracks as Kotetsu pleaded with him to save Kozo, who was being attacked at that very moment. He also revealed to Takito that Haganazuka had been alone for days, tirelessly sharpening her blade, and implored him to rescue them. Takito is initially hesitant to respond to Kotetsu's plea for help, but suddenly recalls the encouraging words spoken to him by Kagaya Obuyashiki, the leader of the Demon's Slayer Corps. As he lay recovering from a vicious demon attack, Kagaya had assured Takito that his lost memories would eventually return to him if he simply focused on staying alive. Even the smallest events could trigger these memories to resurface, and Kagaya had advised Takito to seize any opportunity to clear his mind. Now, taking Kagaya's words to heart, Takito hoists Kotetsu onto his shoulder and races through the forest, despite the young swordsmith's evident fear. As he runs, Takito wonders if he's making the right decision. After all, leading the village to save Kozo and Haganazuka could put its protection in jeopardy. However, he is determined to succeed. As the Mist Hashira, he is one of the most skilled and capable demon slayers in the Corps. After Tanjiro slices the winged demon's head in half, he realizes that it's not over yet as the halves form new mouths and unleash a barrage of attacks. Although he is initially taken aback by the unexpected assault, he quickly realizes that the demon's power is weakening, indicating that the four demons share a certain amount of power between them. Tanjiro then notices an etching on each demon's tongue that corresponds to a particular emotion, and the demon he is currently facing is the Demon of Joy, a clone of upper rank 4 Hantengu. Determined to end the fight, Tanjiro stabs through the halves of flesh, but to his surprise, the winged demon reappears and launches another sonic attack. This time, Tanjiro manages to dodge the attack just in time, narrowly avoiding being hit. As he looks down at his sword, he realizes that the demon flesh on it has vanished, leaving him to wonder what caused it to disappear. The winged demon swoops down at Tanjiro, attacking him multiple times with quick and ferocious slashes. The demon slayer is left with deep wounds on his left shoulder, right shoulder, forearm, thigh, chest, and back, as the demon continues to assault him relentlessly. Despite the pain and injuries, Tanjiro remains focused and determined to stop the demon. He manages to slice through the demon's head and tongue as it swoops down again to attack, causing it to slow down and heal. As the winged demon takes flight once more, Tanjiro realizes that he is currently unable to help his sister Nezuko and comrade Genya, who are still in danger. With his attention fully on the battle, he urges them to stay alive and keep fighting. At the building of the swordsmith village, Nezuko is struggling with Karaku while Genya is immobilized by a piercing wound from a yari in his chest. Sekido, the demon of anger, one of the 4 clones of upper rank 4, impatiently orders his comrades to finish off the demon's slayer and his sister, but Karaku seems to derive pleasure from dragging out the fight. Frustrated, Sekido instructs the demon of sadness, Aizetsu, to assist Karaku instead and finish off the struggling Nezuko. However, the demon of sadness, who had been instructed to help kill Nezuko, is unable to do so due to his yari being impaled in Genya's chest. Seizing the opportunity, Genya pulls out his gun and manages to land a fatal shot on the demon of sadness, causing his head to explode. Furious at Aizetsu's lack of action, Sekido orders him to kill Nezuko, but the demon of sadness is distracted by Genya's unexpected recitation of the Amida Sutra. As Aizetsu swings his yari down towards Genya's neck, he is surprised to see that he misses the demon's slayer completely. Genya suddenly appears behind him and tries to strike his neck, but he is shocked by Sekido's electricity, which leaves him struggling to pull the trigger of his shotgun. Despite the odds stacked against him, Genya manages to muster the strength to aim at Sekido and fires, severing the demon's right hand. The demon of anger is unable to believe that Genya is still alive, even though he has sustained severe wounds from his lightning attack and Aizetsu's spear attack. In retaliation, Aizetsu swings his yari and slams the shaft into Genya's chest, sending him flying across the room. As Karaku has his fun, he ruthlessly attacks Nezuko and impales her torso with his foot. He then instructs Sekido to use his kakura to impale her and shock her until she is immobilized. Sekido, filled with rage, declares that this was his original plan. In an attempt to free herself, Nezuko kicks Karaku in the jaw and partially severs his neck before ripping her hand away. Despite his injuries, the demon of pleasure heals himself, but is sprayed with Nezuko's blood, which enables her to use exploding blood and sets him ablaze. As Nezuko struggles to defend herself, she twists Karaku's hand off and uses the Uchiwa to blast him away with his own wind. She then tries to use the same move against Sekido, but he quickly swats the Uchiwa away with his kakura. In a moment of desperation, Nezuko tries to dodge Sekido's attack but is stabbed in the neck. Sekido then uses his electricity to shock her, rendering her unable to move. At the Swordsmith Village forest, Tanjiro continues to struggle against the winged demon, desperately trying to find a way to protect himself and his companions. Although he sustains a cut to his cheek, he refuses to give up and looks for a way to outmaneuver the relentless beast. Despite his best efforts, however, he finds himself at a loss, with no clear strategy in sight. The building where Nezuko and Genya are located is tantalizingly close, but Tanjiro is hesitant to take his eyes off the demon for even a second. As the demon swoops down once more, Tanjiro tries to strike at its feet but misses, and barely manages to evade its razor-sharp claws. He knows that he must think fast and act decisively, but his mind is clouded with fear and uncertainty. All he can do is plead with his friends to stay alive and hold on until he can come to their aid. Meanwhile, Aizetsu approaches Genya, who appears to be unconscious, only to be surprised when he hears the demon's slayer reciting sutras. Confused and curious, Aizetsu asks Genya who he is, to which Genya calmly responds that his name is Shinazugawa Genya, the man who will ultimately defeat him. Determined to reach his comrades, Tanjiro devises a daring plan to take down the winged demon Yurogi. With the building where Nezuko and Genya are being held in sight, Tanjiro baits Yurogi by running towards the structure. As the demon swoops down with claws outstretched, Tanjiro slides beneath him and quickly thrusts his blade through Yurogi's leg and into his mouth. The demon flails wildly, clawing at Tanjiro's back, but the young demon slayer grits his teeth and endures the pain. As he struggles to control Yurogi's flailing body, Tanjiro realizes that the demon is surprisingly light. Using his sword to steer himself and Yurogi, Tanjiro manages to guide them both back to the building. He crashes through the wall with Yurogi's body, surprising Sekido, who was busy torturing Nezuko. To his shock, Sekido sees that both Karaku and Yurogi have been defeated. Tanjiro picks himself in time to see Sekido paralyzing Nezuko. When he dashes to save her, Sekido generates another staff and tries to hit Tanjiro, but the boy uses Yurogi's foot to defend himself and prevent the lightning from reaching him. He then slices the demon's head and tongue, stalling some time for him to pull the staff out of Nezuko's neck. Suddenly, Tanjiro gets slammed down on the ground with the second staff and is about to receive a shock of lightning, but Nezuko recovers in time to burn Sekido and prevent him from hurting him. Relieved that Nezuko's blood demon art is effective, he looks up in time to see Karaku soar through the air and hit the building's floor with enough pressure to bore a hole through it and render Tanjiro and Nezuko unconscious. Yurogi, Karaku, and Sekido then regroup and gaze over their opponents, planning on dealing the final blow. A swordsmith rings the village's alarm to announce the arrival of the fish demons and instructs the civilians to defend themselves, right before being consumed by a demon. Elsewhere in the village, a group of swordsmiths try to defend themselves as a fish demon approaches them. A crow caws through the night as Mitsuri Kanroji runs through the forest. She tells herself to hurry and enthusiastically states the convenience of the swordsmith village being close to where she was stationed. Chiro carries Kotetsu on his shoulder and asks him if they are heading in the right direction, to which Kotetsu confirms. As they move forward, Michiro spots a fish demon trying to climb up a tree to reach Kozo, and he rushes forward to kill the demon, saving the swordsmith. Both Kotetsu and Kozo express relief at seeing each other safe. Michiro then asks if Kozo is Kanamori and questions if his sword is complete. Kozo notices that the sword he is using is badly chipped and informs Michiro that his own blade is indeed ready. He also reveals that Tanjiro had previously asked to understand him, which surprises Michiro. Kotetsu interrupts the discussion by reminding them that Hataru is still in danger. Kozo acknowledges this and leads the way deep into the forest. He points to a distant work hut and tells Michiro that it contains a blade he can use, asking him to protect the village chief. Michiro senses something approaching and pulls the swordsmith back, warning him of the danger. A porcelain vase rolls out of the bushes, and Gyako emerges, acknowledging Michiro as a Hashira. The swordsmith village is then attacked by Gyako's blood demon art fish demons, causing chaos and panic. The villagers try to band together and protect themselves, but the demons are overpowering them and killing them off one by one. The swordsmiths struggle to fight back against the demons and stay alive, with some even getting cornered by the vicious creatures. However, the love Hashira suddenly appears and slices through one of the demon's vases, saving the group. Mitsuri apologizes for being late and proceeds to kill the rest of the demons in rapid succession, much to the amazement of the swordsmiths. They plead for the village chief to be rescued, and she bravely heads out to save him. In Tekken Techikawara's mansion, the village chief is being crushed to death by a giant fish demon while his aide tries to save him. The demon slayers who were supposed to protect him have all been killed, leaving the aide alone to face the demon. Despite his efforts, the aide realizes that the demon is too strong and fast for him to defeat. Suddenly, Mitsuri arrives and orders the aide to stay still due to his internal injuries. He is surprised to see her unique Nichiren sword that looks like a whip and was crafted by Tekken himself. As the demon roars in anger, Mitsuri unleashes her love-breathing technique, using the first form, Shivers of First Love. With her whip sword, she swiftly moves around the demon's body and cuts it open, killing it instantly. She expresses her disgust towards the unreasonable harm caused by others. The demon disintegrates, and Chief Tekken is nearly thrown off balance when its hand vanishes. Mitsuri catches him just in time and anxiously asks if he's okay. He responds that he's being held by a beautiful young woman, playfully teasing her. The chief's assistant tries to get her attention, but he's rebuffed as the chief doesn't want to spoil the moment. Meanwhile, Tanjiro senses something unusual and wakes up to see Nezuko carrying him away from Sekido, who's attempting to electrocute them. The building is hit with multiple lightning bolts, and the siblings are stunned again. Despite the pain, Tanjiro manages to catch a glimpse of Yurogi swooping down to rescue them. They roll out of the demon's path and are taken into the building by Yurogi, just as Sekido orders the area destroyed. Karaki gives chase to the demon slayers and swings his Uchiwa to launch a gust at them but misses when they turn the corner. Karaku catches them in a long hallway and summons an even more powerful gust of wind, destroying the entire structure and launching the siblings into the air. As they hurtle uncontrollably, Nezuko shocks Tanjiro by grabbing onto his blade. With the area leveled, Hantengu's manifestations begin to look for the siblings. With Nezuko trapped beneath heavy debris, Tanjiro asks that she wait as he attempts to free her, begging her to let go of his sword. She grips even harder and cuts her fingers, coating the blade in her blood. He watches as Sekido and Karaka look through the dust cloud, waiting to let it settle so that they can kill him, as Nezuko ignores her brother's demands and continues to grip his sword. Michiro is approached by Gyako, who requests a moment of his time before he kills him. Gyako is accompanied by Kozo and Kotetsu. Gyako surprises Michiro by showing him a creation of his. He opens a pot, which releases a gruesome collection of the mangled bodies of swordsmiths with blades embedded in them. Gyako calls his creation the death throes of the smiths, and shows off its features, including the calloused hands of the smiths from hard work and the half-broken masks they wore. Kozo and Kotetsu are shocked to recognize all of the victims. In a final horrific display, Gyako twists a katana, causing the victims to scream in agony, and showing that they are still alive. This brings tears to Kotetsu and Kozo's eyes. Michiro furiously charges at Upper 5, determined to end him and avenge the innocent swordsmiths. However, Gyako manages to evade his attack and disappears into his vase, reappearing on the rooftop. The demon insists on continuing his monologue, but Michiro refuses to listen and slashes the vase with ease. Unfazed, Gyako summons another vase and complains about the Hashira destroying his previous one. Michiro takes note of the difference between Gyako and Hantengu's fighting styles. While Hantengu was not attempting to avoid attacks to his neck, Gyako was actively dodging them, indicating that decapitation may be the way to defeat him. Gyako creates a vase and summons 2 demon goldfish, which he uses to launch 1,000-needle fish kill at Michiro. The Hashira dodges the attack, but when the goldfish notice the 2 smiths, they redirect their needles towards them. Michiro steps in front of the smiths and takes multiple needles to his face and arms. Despite the poison's effects, he orders the smiths to leave and hides them from the demon's sight. The demon mocks Michiro for risking his life to save others, but the words unexpectedly trigger a memory for the Hashira. He recalls a moment from his past when someone had told him that his life was worthless, during a summer night when the cicadas were chirping and the door to their home was open to let in the cool air. Gyako is elated at the prospect of creating a new artwork using the Hashira as his medium. Michiro, irritated by his constant chatter, charges forward and tries to decapitate the demon, but his blade fails to penetrate the flesh. Gyako then conjures up a new vase and uses his blood demon art, water prison pot, to trap the mist Hashira in a pot filled with water, intending to suffocate him. The Upper 5 believes that such a death is both stylish and beautiful and relishes the thought of feeling the demon slayer's blade at his neck. Michiro attempts to break free but cannot penetrate the pot, while Gyako enjoys stopping the demon slayer's breathing, his greatest weapon. He gleefully imagines Michiro's face as he meets his end and believes that by destroying the village, the demon slayers will be incapacitated, allowing them to take Kagaya Ubuyashiki's head. Tanjiro pleads with Nezuko to release his sword, but suddenly she uses her power of exploding blood and sets the blade ablaze with her flames. As the blade begins to turn red, a voice expresses amazement at seeing the sword of the samurai change color while he fights. Sumiyoshi is present and watches the scene unfold. Tanjiro realizes that he is witnessing an inherited memory of his ancestor, and that the samurai mentioned by the voice is the demon slayer who wears the same earrings as him. He notes that this samurai's blade must have also been able to turn red like his own. Tanjiro also reflects on the fact that even though he becomes stronger as a demon, his body remains vulnerable to injury, and that he owes his continued existence to those who have sacrificed themselves to save him. Despite coming from different backgrounds, the hopes and aspirations of those who have lent their strength to him are the same: to defeat demons and save lives. Ready to answer their feelings, Tanjiro steps forward to face Shirogi, Karaku, and Sekido. They underestimate him, with Karaku even mocking his new weapon, but Tanjiro is determined to answer their challenge. Shirogi attacks him, but Tanjiro's bright red blade catches Sekido's attention. Through his connection to Muzen's memories, Sekido realizes that the sword belonged to the swordsman who almost killed the demon progenitor. Suddenly, the scar on Tanjiro's head burns and transforms into a fiery mark, as he raises his blade to strike. The memories of the mysterious swordsman Yorichi and Tanjiro merge, leaving Sekido and Yurogi in shock. Tanjiro executes the Hinakami Kagura technique, swiftly cutting off Yurogi's neck, then dashing forward to take out Karaku, and finally charging towards Sekido to slice through his neck. In one fluid motion resembling a dragon's attack, Tanjiro uses the Dragon Sun Halo head dance form to decapitate all three clones at once. He reminisces about the time when he gained the strength to defeat Jutaro and how his breathing and strength had altered, leaving him with a burning sensation throughout his body and forehead. Confident that he can defeat the clones, he searches for the final demon, hoping to eliminate Hantengu by beheading all 4 clones simultaneously. He soon locates Genya in the forest and discovers that he has already impaled and beheaded Aizetsu with his own Yari. However, when Tanjiro calls out to Genya, he turns his head, revealing fangs, bulging veins, and black and yellow eyes. Witnessing the alarming transformation of Genya into a demonic entity, Tanjiro is overcome with shock, causing him to hesitate in approaching his former comrade. Amidst the chaos, Karaku's agonizing screams fill the air, a result of Genya's relentless onslaught, leaving him unable to recover from the inflicted wounds. Sekido, however, grows furious at the demon's pleasurable cries, acknowledging that their healing abilities persist, albeit at a slower pace. Upon realizing that Aizetsu has also suffered decapitation, Tanjiro comprehends that simply severing the 4 manifestations will not bring about their demise, rendering his attacks futile. Swiftly, he employs his blade to free Nezuko from the debris that had trapped her, leading to a heartwarming reunion between the siblings, filled with a sense of solace and relief. Tanjiro's unease grows as he contemplates the possibility that decapitation may not be the demon's true weakness. He senses the presence of a 5th demon lurking on the battlefield, concealed from sight. In a sudden turn of events, Genya seizes Tanjiro by the throat, fueled by anger and determination to eliminate the upper rank. He boasts about his assistance in defeating Upper 6, emphasizing that he aims to become a Hashira. Tanjiro, undeterred and noticing Genya's saliva, calmly requests to loosen his grip. However, Genya tightens his hold, unwavering in his determination to achieve Hashira status before anyone else. Tanjiro responds with unwavering support, assuring Genya that both he and Nezuko will stand by his side on his journey. He reveals the presence of a hidden 5th demon, though Genya initially doubts his words, suspecting a ploy to lower his guard. Yet, upon witnessing Tanjiro's sincere gaze, Genya realizes the truth and is taken aback. As tension mounts, lightning crackles around them, signaling the complete regeneration of Sekido, Karaku, and Yurogi. Tanjiro instructs Nezuko to join forces with Genya and confront the clones, while he ventures away from them in search of the elusive 5th demon. Genya unleashes his attacks on Yurogi, while Nezuko engages in a fierce battle with Karaku, narrowly evading his powerful gust of wind that almost strikes Tanjiro. The force of the wind clears Tanjiro's senses, enabling him to regain his heightened sense of smell. Focusing on the scent of the 5th demon, he traces it to a nearby thicket where a tearful and fearful Hantengu is hiding, quietly reassuring himself that his manifestations will eliminate the demon's slayers. Tanjiro calls out to Genya and leads him into the depths of the forest to locate the demon. Observing Tanjiro's movement, Sekido commands Yurogi to intercept the demon's slayer. Now locked in combat with the demon of joy, Tanjiro urgently directs Genya to head northeast, revealing the demon's hiding place. Sekido's command brings forth a crackling storm of lightning that forces both Tanjiro and Genya to halt their movements. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Tanjiro urges Nezuko to aid him by engaging the wrathful demon and disrupting his lightning attacks. Meanwhile, Yurogi takes to the skies, while Karaku materializes behind Tanjiro, conjuring a powerful gust of wind that propels him through the air. In a desperate act, Tanjiro clings onto a sturdy tree stump and drives his blade into the ground to anchor himself against the relentless force of the wind. The demon of anger readies himself to unleash another surge of lightning, but before he can strike, Nezuko bravely charges at him, only to be unexpectedly impaled by Aizetsu's spear. Gyako, the upper rank 6, taunts the trapped Miss Hashira, questioning if he can feel pain, while Michiro futilely attempts to pierce through the water pot that confines him. As Michiro's life hangs by a thread and he fights to maintain his composure, upper rank 5 revels in the excitement of witnessing his struggles, noting the rising creativity in his relentless pursuit of stoicism. Nezuko finds herself trapped against a tree by the demon of sorrow, who warns her not to resist. He signals to Sekido to incapacitate her, but before he can act, Tanjiro swiftly severs the hand of the demon of anger with his vibrant crimson blade. Sekido observes Tanjiro's enhanced speed and strength, surpassing the demon's previous descriptions of him, as Tanjiro effortlessly slices through Yurogi's wing and mouth. Nezuko seizes Izetsu's head and pulls herself free from the shaft of his yari, launching herself at him and igniting the demon of sorrow in flames. Meanwhile, as Tanjiro attempts to strike Karaku, the demon of pleasure subdues him with a powerful gust of wind. Shifting his focus to Genya in the forest, the demon is caught off guard as Tanjiro unexpectedly severs his arm, directing Genya to head right as their target moves southward. As Genya dashes through the dense forest, he grapples with the challenge of pinpointing the whereabouts of the elusive demon, contemplating the possibility of it employing a blood demon art to conceal itself. Meanwhile, Karaku lands a forceful kick to Tanjiro's stomach, momentarily staggering him. Determined to aid Genya in his pursuit, Tanjiro shouts for him to veer towards the right, where the demon lurks on the ground. Peering down, Tanjiro spots the fifth demon camouflaged amidst the foliage, and Tengu has reduced in size, resembling nothing more than a tiny mouse. Astonished and finding it difficult to believe that this diminutive creature controls the clones, Genya gives chase, his anger fueling his determination. He reflects on the revelation that the entire battle had served as a mere hunt to locate Tengu, who had been cunningly concealed while the four formidable manifestations engaged them in combat. With a newfound understanding of the immense toll this demon has taken, Genya swings his blade towards Tengu's neck, only to witness his weapon snap in two despite the seemingly frail target. Taken aback, Genya pulls the trigger of his shotgun, unleashing a powerful blast directly at the demon's back. To his astonishment, Tengu remains completely unharmed, showing no signs of damage despite the full force of the gunshot. Unable to comprehend the demon's extraordinary resilience, Genya senses a presence behind him, and in an instant, Sekido materializes, poised to strike him with his kakura. Caught in a state of paralysis, Genya realizes he has no means to evade the imminent attack, his head unable to regenerate. In what appears to be his final moments, memories of his older brother Sanemi flood Genya's mind. He had yearned to become a Hashira, longing for Sanemi's recognition so that he could apologize for a painful incident from their shared past. Genya's thoughts drift back to his childhood, reminiscing about his mother, a petite woman who toiled tirelessly day and night. His father, on the other hand, was a towering figure with an abusive temperament that matched his imposing stature. The contempt toward his father was so intense that it eventually led to his demise in a tragic stabbing incident. Genya's childhood was plagued by his father's abusive behavior, as he would regularly inflict harm upon Genya, his siblings, and their mother. Despite her petite stature, Genya's mother always displayed incredible strength and courage in protecting her children. One fateful night, as they lay in their beds, Genya noticed that his mother was unusually late returning home. Sanemi, his older brother, who couldn't sleep either, decided to venture out and search for her while Genya stayed behind to watch over their younger siblings. Although Genya yearned to accompany Sanemi, his brother reminded him of the promise they had made. Reluctantly, Genya remained with their siblings, attempting to calm their growing anxiety. However, the atmosphere became even more unsettling when a loud thud reverberated from the front door, prompting Genya's siblings to rush toward it in anticipation of their mother's arrival. Sensing something amiss, Genya warned them against opening the door, as he couldn't shake off the feeling that the figure outside might not be their mother at all. As the door shatters, a mysterious figure swiftly enters the house, instantly claiming the lives of 4 of Genya's siblings. In the chaos, Genya's face is slashed, and the assailant leaps to the ceiling, causing the lamp above to shatter, engulfing the room in darkness. Unable to see the attacker, Genya's mind races, initially mistaking it for a wolf. Suddenly, the figure lunges towards him, but before it can strike, Sanemi tackles it, and they both crash out of the house. In the midst of the turmoil, Genya pleads with his wounded siblings to stay strong and await help, while he rushes outside to find Sanemi. The sun begins to rise as Genya reaches the end of the street, where he discovers a bloodied and disoriented Sanemi gazing at their mother's disintegrating body. Overwhelmed by grief, Genya embraces her lifeless form and demands answers from Sanemi, accusing him of being the murderer, though Sanemi is frozen in a state of shock. Reflecting on that tragic moment, Genya now apologizes to his brother for the unjust accusation, understanding that their mother had transformed into a demon. Genya reflects on the immense burden Sanemi must have carried on that fateful night, the pain of fighting and slaying their beloved mother, and the unjust accusation hurled at him by Genya, the very brother he vowed to protect their family with. After their father's demise, as Sanemi and Genya strolled through the streets with provisions, Sanemi acknowledged their new responsibility to safeguard their mother and siblings. While Genya found solace in their father's passing, Sanemi recognized the void it would create in their family, and resolved to fill that void by being their pillar of support. Genya, expressing his belief that their protective role was not something new but a duty they had always fulfilled, evoked a smile from Sanemi. In his final moments, Genya lamented his inability to apologize and questioned why his brother's smiling face would be the last image imprinted in his mind. Deeming himself untalented due to his inability to master a breathing technique, an essential skill for aspiring Hashiras, Genya deemed his efforts to be in vain. Recalling the painful memory of Sanemi disavowing their bond and urging him to abandon the Demon Slayer Corps, Genya tearfully implored for an explanation as to why he was being pushed aside. With a sudden burst of determination, Tanjiro's voice echoes through the air, calling out Genya's name and urging him not to surrender. Swiftly moving forward, Tanjiro swiftly slices off Sekido's hand, saving his comrade from a perilous fate. Offering words of encouragement, he reminds Genya of his unwavering goal to become a Hashira. In an unexpected twist, Aizetsu emerges behind them, utilizing the Weeping Spear's technique to launch weapon projections towards the duo. Although directly caught in the attack, Tanjiro realizes he remains unscathed, only to witness Genya standing in front of him, bearing multiple puncture wounds. Realizing his limitations, Genya admits his inability to decapitate the demon and implores Tanjiro to take on the task instead. With a fierce determination, Aizetsu lunges towards them, prompting Genya to fire his shotgun at the demon. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, Tanjiro sprints through the dense forest, tracking the distinct scent of the fifth demon. In his sights, he catches a glimpse of the fleeing Hantengu. As the demon enters the clearing, now free from cover, the demon slayer swings his bright red blade at the upper rank. Like and comment if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel for more anime recaps, and tell me what anime recap you'd like to see next in the comments below.